Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So another day and another exhausting round of discourse about fictional short characters. This time we have a few stories, but the main focus is going to involve fur affinity and some updates regarding how they will moderate short characters. So the name gives it away. It is a popular art hosting platform that is primarily used by furries. Now, furry is not my cup of tea, but I don't judge you if it's your thing. But I think any self-aware furry knows that there is a serious hypocrisy issue among some of their community because some of the biggest anti-lolicons are furries. And of course, the logic they use to smear lolicons can be applied right back at them to make them problematic as well. But the changes to fur affinities, policing of short characters has a lot of artists concerned. But this actually comes as an update to a Discord message that had a lot of people concerned. This came 3 days before their official thread that we're going to look at in a second. But this says, our most well-known change removed the classic 1,000-year-old lolly vampire loophole trope by expanding our definition of minors to include humanoids with childlike body proportions, including canonically adult characters who look like children, and these standards will be going into effect on July 1st. So obviously this whole sentiment here is what is used by some furries to paint lolicons as pedos, right? But unfortunately, this definition applies to a lot of cub artwork and also just short and petite furry characters, and especially original characters who have no set age or might have a certain body type that someone could subjectively consider a child if they so wanted to. But to quell some of those fears, Fur Affinity released this thread on the 21st, and it has caused even more problems. So let's read it. With the most recent site announcement, some clarifications will be posted to the main site soon. In the meantime, we want to clarify a very specific concern in regards to short characters. How will this policy change affect micro/short characters? Please follow the thread. So instantly, whenever there is a new policy coming in that is going to police short characters, you're going to have problems because art is very subjective, and determining the ages and body types of fictional characters is a mess. It hands all the power to the moderators, who basically get to play judge, jury, and executioner on whether a certain art piece will be allowed or not. And it is all up to their subjective opinion. But they add some clarifications. The first one is right here. To clarify what is meant by proportions, we do not mean a prohibition on short characters or style choices. Characters that are canonically children or have features that make them appear underage would have to have appropriate proportion changes to be identified as an adult. Which this standard, again, super subjective and tough to prove. It is hard, nearly impossible, to prove that a character is being drawn short or as a child based on style choices. Was that the style choice, or was that just how the character looks? How could you tell without contacting the artist? And this whole concept of updating the proportions of characters to identify the difference between an adult and a child, that is going to be a big issue, because what if the proportions stay the same but the character gets older? There's a million examples of that, and there's no way that this is a fair standard to be applied across the board. But they add another clarification, which of course just adds more confusion, by saying just being small or having short limbs does not mean we'll identify the character as a child. Will include context to the character's realm to identify if they are an adult. If a character looks young from birth till old, we have to look at it subjectively based on how it looks. This is a whole mess right here. Okay, number one, the whole language about context of the character's realm. Who knows what that means, by the way? But the important part is you need to demonstrate that it somehow looks different from when it was young at birth until the present where it's older. You have to show that there is a difference in how it looks. which is absolutely crazy because a lot of the art on Fur Affinity are original characters. So if you just create a short adult character and it's just an adult right from the get-go because it's fictional and you can do that, you're going to have to somehow prove that it had a younger version that was smaller. So basically their solution to these underage characters being hosted on their platform is requiring artists to not only draw their original characters, but also draw the child version of their original character to be used as a reference to prove that it has aged up in some way. That is insane. Like, besides the fact you're requiring them to draw child characters to prove they're not children and to avoid having child characters on their platform, you also just have to do all this extra work. And it, once again, you have to prove somehow the proportions have changed. It's just such an unbelievable mess. So immediately people are like, well, what does that mean? Can you provide an example? Well, Fur Affinity provides an example and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So they say a good example of this is taking a short character, let's say Judy Hopps from Zootopia, and showing what she looks like next to the younger rabbits. She is still shorter than many, and when put next to a bigger version of herself as a child, you can see the difference between them. So remember, they talked a lot ad nauseum about proportions being updated. And yet, here is the sample photo they use. The proportions are the exact same. What do you mean? So you're telling me there is a significant difference in the body type and proportions between these two. Significant enough to lodge what is essentially a pedophile accusation against an artist. That is insane to me, right? And you scroll down and they say there's no easy way to address all concerns, but we will be taking the time to do our best to reassure that this only closes a loophole to an already existing rule. This isn't anything new. To add to this, we'll take appearance into consideration, not levels or evolutions, which causes a whole nother issue about evolutions like Mew versus Mewtwo, right? Like how does evolution have anything to do with age in that situation? But all of these examples and new updates and clarifications just add more confusion and make the entire policy more subjective by each step. It is entirely up to the moderators to decide if something's a child. If it's short, has short proportions, isn't significantly different than a younger version, or maybe doesn't have a younger version for comparison, all these things can lead to you getting banned and your livelihood put at risk. That is a big problem. And back to the whole original character situation, right? This user asked, I'm short and my biddies are small. What does that mean for me? And they reply with, if you would like clarification on your OC, we recommend you put in a ticket or DM us for review. But again, we do not take character height or even chest size into account when making these decisions. So besides the fact that you have to basically go to them directly to make sure your OC is kosher, but also they pretty much contradict the entire above thread by saying like none of these things even matter when making these decisions. I have no idea what's going on at Fur Affinity, but it's managed to piss off a great portion of their artists and regular users who frequent that platform, and it's made a whole lot of lolicons and lolicon defenders point and laugh because for many, this is a taste of their own medicine and these standards being applied to furry art, which have been applied by furries to lolicons to paint them as predators. Oh, but it doesn't end there. So there's been further clarifications made in their Discord server, which has provided more context as to what kinds of short characters and minors will be okay. Well, apparently if you draw underage characters involved in safe for work or non-sexualized interests, such as vor, you're okay. They are saying that vor is not sexual, okay? You don't have to be like super familiar with that whole fetish to understand that it is a fetish. It is very sexual. Vor is meant to be sexual, and yet if you put a minor character in that situation, it's okay. It's still considered, or now apparently considered, safe for work. Meanwhile, they're making this whole fuss about short characters, but allowing a very specific fetish, a sexual fetish, to exist on their platform, considered safe for work even. That's crazy to me. But moving on, more hysteria involving short characters. This was a pretty viral post, got over 20,000 likes, saying the short girlfriend and using a fictional character, but the way people are treating this, it's not just short women, but also in fiction, but short women in real life as well. So part of this whole thing, these descriptions, other than these banger ones over here, it says shops for clothing in the kids section. And it led to this quote retweet with another ridiculous Goku meme, which is hilarious. And it says in quotes, shops for clothes in the kids section. Very confused, and this Goku meme is always, of course, affiliated with people saying that this is something illegal going on or pedophilia. So if you genuinely are surprised that adult women shop for clothes in the kids section, you have never met an adult woman before. This is not a mind-blowing concept, and we're not even getting into like particulars like an adult woman shopping for their child or something. I'm just saying there's many cases where women will shop for kids clothing because it might actually just fit them because they're short, or maybe for a specific piece of clothing, they want something that'll fit them better. It is very, very common, and if you think like this, you haven't been outside, and you definitely haven't been outside with an adult woman while she is shopping. This whole thing is crazy. There's not much to say. It's like either you think this is stupid and you know it's stupid, or you just don't know anything, right? But moving on from that, another one of these. We've seen a whole host of these types of tweets. It is now deleted, but this went viral. Lots of interaction, over 6 million views on this tweet, saying, realistically, what does a 19-year-old have in common with a 22-year-old? So, we're getting even beyond short at this point. We're talking 3-year age gaps between adults. And we've seen some previous hypotheticals used to paint people as problematic in their relationship dynamics. We've seen like 26 and 19 used to cancel people before, but now we're doing 22 and 19, which 22 and 19, by the way, you could be in the same college class together. That's how close those ages are. There is a ton in common between those groups. I don't understand. I think if you ask these people for the age gap between their parents and when they met, their heads would explode, because large age gaps was not considered a problem until Twitter decided it was a few years ago. If you have two consenting adults, yeah, maybe you might think it's a little weird that a 20-year-old is dating an 80-year-old. But anything where you're dealing with someone who's 19 with someone in their early 20s, or someone in their early 20s with someone who's 30 or something like that, those are completely normal, and there's plenty of things that they can have in common. But this just goes to show you, everything is problematic, everything is pedophilia, and how else could I end this video than looking at Andrew Tate? Andrew Tate has continued his anime arc. This is something we have been talking about. We talked about it in a video a couple days ago. He's been making daily tweets featuring anime characters, most of them entirely cringe, but I think that's kind of the point. But I made a point to say this has been a difficult situation, because yes, it's funny to point and laugh at Andrew Tate and to just see the hysteria him posting anime characters causes, but it's just more ammunition for people to make fun of anime fans and to demonize them. And of course, when he posts canonically underage characters, people call him a pedo, and if you don't care about Andrew Tate, that's fine, I get it. But of course, that same logic is driving hate towards anime fans over some of this completely ridiculous stuff. And in this case, it's like he's just going to keep posting this every day. They're going to call the people angry about this, they're going to call anime fans pedos, and it's just going to continue every day. And he's going to keep posting for more bait and outrage reaction to it. And it's just an annoying situation, but I don't know. It just goes to show you this whole argument about fictional characters, whether they're short, or conversations about their age is so pointless and so biased towards what people want to use to attack others. It'll make your head spin. But that's going to do it for this video. I know it was a whole lot today, but please let me know all of your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.